All right. Oh, okay. So what I need to know from those of you who, the one person who is watching right now, I'm going to be quiet for a second. I want you to tell me if you can hear the fan, because it's warm in here. There's some white noise coming from, yeah, you hear it? Okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have them turn up the AC, and I'm going to turn this fan off. Just a second. Okay, sorry about that. I've kind of been nervous about this all day long, and it's because, you know, I said this is my first Facebook Live. Well, funny story, it's not, and it's because I didn't remember doing another one before. I actually did a Facebook Live with my daughter when she got off her mission in February, and when Vanessa said, yeah, you actually did a Facebook Live when she came home, I said, well, then it must have been my kids who set me up on it, because I don't know how to do that. And then I looked it up, and I'm like, no, that was actually me. I did do that, but I just forgot. So maybe that's because of the nerves or something. My name is Leslie Householder, and I am excited to share a story that's been 10 years in the making, and kind of been running it through my head. How am I going to present this? Because it's huge, it's giant, it's a lot of information to cover to span 10 years, and actually I'm going to span more than that, and I'm going to go fast. And the reason why I've got a little bit of peace of mind about it is because I found where I have shared a lot of it already, and I have a recording of it that I'm going to turn into a podcast soon that will fill in the details that I don't get to cover here. So I'm going to back up. I know some of you maybe were invited to this and really don't know anything about me or why I do what I do, and so I'm going to just back up a little bit and share some of that. We may get to see Trevin pop in here a little bit. I hope he comes in. Trevin is my husband. So back up, when my husband and I first married, we married young, and financially we were not prepared to get married, but we believed that if we just had faith. Hey, I was hoping so. Okay, Trevin gets to be here with us.
Hey everybody.
So I'm just going over why we do what we do.
Okay.
And so if I get anything wrong, he can poke me or chime in. So like I said, we got married unprepared, believed if we had faith everything would work out, and it didn't quite work out like I thought. I thought if we just were good people and did everything that we had been taught to do, to believe in God and to follow His commandments, that He would provide for us, and that there's a promise there. And we couldn't figure out why we felt like we were keeping our end of the bargain and we weren't being provided for like we thought we needed to be. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. This is something that we had talked about before marrying and decided that's how we wanted our family to be, for me to raise the kids at home while he provided, and we're traditional that way. And after a year, you know, I had my first baby, and we decided that I would stay home from work and just trust that somehow things would work out. Well, things didn't work out. And pretty soon my husband loses his job, and I'm going back to work, and he's looking for other jobs, and we're just drowning, trying to keep everything together. And at the same time, starting to get depressed. He gets dry eyes, so if he's winking at you, don't take it personally. That's all for me. But it's Arizona and dry eyes, so.
And I've got the wind blowing on me, so sorry.
We could trade places.
No, you're good.
So 7 years of this, 7 years of feeling frustrated that, you know, we weren't getting ahead. We weren't even keeping up. We were going under, and it was one thing after another. It was a job loss, or cars that wouldn't work, or medical bills, or whatever. We just couldn't get in front of it. And I'd look at people around us, our same age, who, you know, like, how do they have a camcorder? You remember that? How do they have nice furniture? Yeah. You know, I couldn't figure out how they were doing it.
How do they have a car that works?
Right. So we started looking, and we had some friends who could see that the way we were responding to our challenges was having some kind of an effect on how well we were finding the opportunities we were looking for. I'm trying to think how I can shorten this and just get to the point. So fast forward, we started going to events, seminars that would teach us personal development, business development, how to make money from home, how to do this, how to do that, and how to build a business. And we started going to these events, and I counted it up, and we attended no less than 100 over those 7-8 years, trying to figure it out. And we would get some tips, and they'd say, okay, do this, this, and this, and this, and you'll succeed, because that's what we did to succeed. So we'd go home and we'd do those things, and we didn't succeed. And we're like, we are the first people to come along to follow these steps and have nothing happen. Right?
Well, it wasn't nothing, but it wasn't what we had expected.
My My mom, she was so worried about us.
Yeah.
I remember
So
she would like ask, so how's that business going? And I'm like, it's paying the bills. And I'm thinking, we got $32 this month. We paid the $32 bill that month, and not to count for the $200 we spent to learn how to build that business. And so it was rough. But there came a point where I got so tired of these events and this pump you up just to go home and 2 weeks later wonder where's the magic that they promised, And I said, all right, honey, I can't do this anymore. I'll go to the one more. And if something doesn't really change.
Now, she didn't volunteer that.
No?
No, you didn't volunteer that you would just go to one more.
Really?
That was like...
In my head? That was in my head?
No, well, you eventually did, but first I had to convince you.
Oh,
right?
He was always dragging me along.
Yeah. So finally, I'll go to one more. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. As you were.
As I were. So we go to this event, and actually the first time we went and heard this speaker, I wasn't paying much attention. I was distracted. I wasn't really there hungry to learn. I was just kind of like, yeah, I'll be here.
Well, tell them what you were doing.
I was talking with my neighbor.
And?
Probably counting how much money we spent to get there.
Yes.
And being frustrated about that. So, and I still remember that was the trip where we left my favorite couch cushion.
Yes.
We had brought it for the trip and left it at the hotel, and I still miss that couch cushion.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. So after that event was over, everybody in that arena was buzzing about what they'd learned, and I'm like, what'd I miss? And so I lean over to him and I'm like, hey, what'd he say?
How am I going to sum that up, right?
He'd spent like 2 hours or something to develop these ideas, and I wanted a 2-second sum up. And what do you remember getting from that event personally?
It just put a lot of pieces together, and me and the other people around me were just buzzing, talking about what this new paradigm had done for us. And we were just really super jazzed about it, and I was bummed that I couldn't share that with you.
You were there,
I
honey.
couldn't sum it up like he did.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Basically, he was explaining how life works. And so I realized I had missed out on something. And so a few months later, this organization brought the same speaker back to share again and more in depth. And I'm like, okay, I am going to go to this, and we are going to sit on the front row, and we are going to be ready with pen and paper in hand.
You're very intentional.
And we are not going to miss a thing, because this was the only event we'd been to, over 100, where people were still talking about it months later.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a flash in the pan, feel good for a weekend. It was like he had revealed something profound. And so we're ready. And we're listening, and as he's explaining it, and it's interesting because I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and when he gets up there, he's not a member, the speaker is Bob Proctor. He gets up there, one of the first things he says, he's like, there is a verse in the Mormon faith that says, and I'm like, ooh, what's he going to say? And he goes into, there is a law irrevocably decreed before the foundations of the world that when you obtain any blessing, it is based by obedience to the law upon which it is predicated. And he wasn't hypey. He was just like, look, there are laws. You follow the laws, you obey the laws, and you will have the blessing attached to that law. And I'm like, oh, I get that. So what are these laws, And so he starts expounding. And about halfway through, my husband and I, we just look at each other, and our mouths dropped open, and we're like...
Because you are always looking for the principle behind it. Not just the do this, then do this, but you want to know why.
I wanted to know what is the one thing that will stay constant no matter what's going on.
So when you heard there were laws, like, laws maybe that we weren't aware of, it kind of helped you realize that, whoa, maybe there's a reason why, we thought we were living all these laws, right, that we knew about, but maybe there's others
that we didn't
know about that are causing us not to get the results we were after.
And go back several years, and I remember hitting another snag in our life. Some other challenge came up, and I remember thinking, what am I supposed to think about this? Another blow. What am I supposed to think about this? And I find it interesting that I would even ask that question. What am I supposed to think about this? Because I think instinctively, deep down, I knew that if I could just think right about what just happened, then it would allow us to experience the best possible outcome on the other side of it. I think that had to have been something inborn, something that we all kind of know or want to believe. And so I'm looking for principles. What are the things I can hold on to no matter what's going on? So just make a note that what Bob Proctor explained at that event, I'm not going to explain here. We have a full video where we go into that whole thing. It's called The Visual Aid That Changed Everything. And it's at the bottom of my blog, rarefaith.org. Look for the visual aid that changed everything. And that is a free video. So you can just go watch that to see what we learned from Bob Proctor that day.
That's a really, really good one.
I ended up training with Bob Proctor to teach his programs, and my goal, my passion turned out to be helping people that I related to understand these principles. You know, I have a very niche audience, I think, and it's because that's who I love to teach. But we came home from that event just with our eyes opened and hope, and oh my gosh, we know what to do. We know what to do with fear. We know what to do with stress. We know what to do with lack of resources. We know what to do. We know how to think. And so 3 months later, we tripled our income, having just understood this new awareness. And it's interesting because you can do the same thing with a higher awareness and get different results. Same thing, same activity with just a higher awareness, and you'll get different results. So it was powerful, and it changed our life. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, I'm not looking for a career, but I have to teach this. I have to teach this. And
because we were like, we have family, we have friends that are
suffering like we were.
Yeah, going through similar struggles, and we're like, we can't just sit on this.
So I started teaching classes, but I had 5 kids, 1 on the way, and putting events together. You know, Bob Proctor wasn't sending me clients. He just taught me what to teach, and it was up to me to find people that wanted to listen. And so at the time, Trevin was working about 2.5-hour commute from home, and sometimes only coming home on the weekends, and me with a baby on the way, and we were also fixing a house to flip it, and we were just very busy. And I thought, I can't not share what we learned, but I need to find a way to share what we learned without being present, without being there. And I thought, so I will write a book. But this book has to be different. This can't be just a book on how to think step by step. Here's the bullet points. It just needs to be an experience, because it took us 7 years of experiencing pain and questions and answers and bumping up against other challenges that taught us new things that brought us to the place where we were ready to understand and implement what we learned that day. And so I thought, this book has to be different. It needs to be an experience. It needs to be something that a person can read in a couple hours and have that 7-year transformation condensed into a couple hours. And so that was the Jackrabbit Factor. That's where that came from. It's a free download at jackrabbitfactor.com. You can just read the whole thing for free. So things were clipping along pretty good. We got our dream home. We had more money in the bank than we'd ever seen before. We made like 6-figure deposits. It was just a big change from where we'd come from. And we were excited to share. And we get a little bit, I wouldn't say we were cocky or careless. We were just anxious to take it to the next level, anxious to grow. And at the same time, we were also looking for different streams of income that we could add. And one of them thinking, oh, we had done so good in real estate. We made so much money in real estate. We are so savvy.
And so we thought.
Yeah.
It's easy to make money in real estate in an up market.
Yep. And so we thought we were savvy, and we ended up purchasing several properties all at once, right at the end of 2006. And so 2007 hit.
My bad.
Our bad. We were in it together. If he wants to take the blame.
My bad. Yeah.
Well, no, there's a whole lot more behind that. But so we find out that we've just made the biggest mistake of our lives, and we are upside down with giant bills that don't just go away. And we thought, oh, what did we just do? And, you know, the recession, I felt like we kind of hit it early. Some people didn't feel it till about 2009. We were feeling it spring of 2007, wouldn't you say? We were already feeling it.
Yeah.
Because the properties we purchased were supposed to be a flip that we would be selling right then. Well, this great investors special is now upside down. You know?
The market's falling faster than our price was. So it's one of those scenarios. But,
yeah, good times. So, that was hard. That was so hard to have this successful book. And we were teaching seminars about how to succeed. And people are still writing us saying, oh my gosh, this changed our life. Oh my gosh, look at what we achieved. Look at what we did. Right about this time, I got word from a friend who pointed out this news clip from Canadian National News where the winner of the World's Best Job contest out of Australia was a man from England who there were 34,000 applicants for this world's greatest job, which was to be an island caretaker for the Great Barrier Reef. Basically, you live on a paradise island for 6 months and you blog about everything there is to do.
Yeah, take in all the sites and all
tourist
the attractions,
all the activities,
Yeah.
the scuba diving, the parasailing, whatever there is to do, you have to do it and you have to blog about it, and we'll pay you 6 figures to live there for 6 months. World's best job, right? So the guy who won it was from England, and he was being interviewed on this national news in Canada, and he attributed his win out of 34,000 applicants to what he learned from the Jackrabbit Factor. And I'm like, yes. You know, all the while,
Yeah.
our life is tanking.
Yeah. Like, I wish it would work for
Wish it
us
would
right
work.
now.
I know. It got to the point where, I mean, I still love to hear everybody's stories. People were sending stories in all over the place, and I loved hearing them, but there was a piece of me that was like, well, dang it.
Yeah.
You know, good for you.
Thanks for following the instructions that we're apparently not following very well right now.
And I wanted to hide under a rock. I just
Yeah.
didn't want to show up at anything. I didn't want to teach classes. And there's this little voice in the back of my head that said, you know what? Keep teaching. You don't make the principles true or false by how well you're living them. I'm like, and it was
So true.
all I could do to scrape myself up and go teach another class. And I was being really, really careful not to stand there and say, look what we've done. Look at who we are. I would be honest and say, look, our life is a mess right now, but here's what happened. Here's what we did. Here's what worked. And here's what we're figuring out right now. And I'm going to keep you posted as we figure it out. Because those first 10 years of our marriage taught us how to create, how to achieve, how to set a goal and have it happen with unseen help. But the second decade taught us how not to fear. And the only way you can learn how not to fear is to have a whole lot of fear to practice with.
Yeah.
But I remember we were working with one of our mentors, and it was decided, I think they decided, Trevin and Garrett B. Gunderson at the time, said, you know what, the Jackrabbit Factor isn't complete enough. With what we've learned, I mean, we learned through that whole mess, we actually used the principles to close on those homes. The underwriters didn't think we should. They
were right.
And they were
we
right.
Shouldn't have.
They didn't know the market was going to tank, but they were nervous about us buying so many properties all at once, and so they kept giving us new hoops to jump through. Oh, instead of 3 months in reserves, you need to show this much down and 6 months in reserves. Oh, now you need to show this much down and 12 months in reserves and prove that it's been seasoned. In other words, it's already been in your account for X amount of months or whatever. And it got to be, you know, we kept using the principles of rare faith to jump through every hoop because we were so fixed on the outcome and what it was going to do for our family. We kept jumping through the hoops until it got to a point where there was nothing left for us to be able to do because you couldn't get money in the bank and prove that it had been there.
Right.
You know, that's where it stopped. And so we're just quiet. We're in the office and we're thinking, you know, we are not giving up. We are locked onto the outcome, and we are determined to find a way, and we can see it done, and we can feel how good it's going to feel to have made that progress. And then an idea comes to my mind, and it says, you don't have to come up with that money. All this would take is for one person in underwriting to have a change of heart. And I'm like, and I told our business manager and Trevin this, and everybody's like, hey, that's something we could believe in. That's something we could do. And so we applied the principles to that idea. It wasn't making any one person do it, but we thought all it would take is someone. Whoever decides to step into that role could be the one to make this happen. And we went to bed. And the next morning we have an email from the agent saying, well, all they need is this little signature over here and you're done. And we're like, so they don't need the money. They don't need all this stuff. And we were thinking we are so good at this rare faith thing. You know?
What they did is they jacked the interest rate way, way, way up.
Oh, is that what you did?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, they made it so that they felt good about the deal. Yeah.
Anyway, so we were thinking we are so good at this, you know, we're gonna whatever. And then now we look back and we realize, yeah, okay, so the mechanism is in place. The mechanism is in place for you to get whatever you need based on what your desires are. You will get the desires of your heart. But we learned through this that the principles work for stupid goals too. And so I'm not going to look back on that and say, oh, God made that loan go through because we had faith. And we're not going to blame God that that loan went through because we applied the principles. The mechanism was in place. It's in place for whatever it is you desire. And God's role in this whole equation, as far as I'm concerned, is to teach us wisdom and to acknowledge his hand in our lives, because
to teach us how to create.
And to how to create. And so like the law of gravity happens, I think, without God saying, ooh, that apple broke loose, push it down. He doesn't have to do that. The mechanism is in place for the things we need to be delivered. It was flung into motion at his word. And so what we learn from that is that there is added wisdom that is important to consider when you are living by these principles or attempting to. And there are, I'd say, two main camps in the world. You may have heard of the law of attraction. You may have seen the movie The Secret. This is them trying to explain the mechanism of how things come to you and how things happen in your life by your thoughts, by your focus, by the energy you put into it, by the way you feel. And it's true. It's true. But Bob Proctor taught us that the law of attraction is only one of about 7 or 8 laws that all work together in harmony. And if you're just focused on the one, you can have regrets, like we've had regrets. And so I don't teach the law of attraction by that name. I have instead tried to put my focus in the other teachers that teach the law of attraction are tremendous, and we've learned so much from so many of them. And this is not to discount anything, but I know that for me, I want to take it from an angle based on a quote that I heard by Boyd K. Packer. And I probably am not going to say this exactly correctly, but he said there are 2 kinds of faith. One of them operates ordinarily in our daily lives. It is how we relate ourselves to things that are scheduled to happen. It promises us that the dawn will come, that growth will take place. It says, but there is another kind of faith, rare indeed. It is the kind of faith that causes things to happen. It is worthy and unyielding and brings forth things that would otherwise would not be. He says it moves people. It sometimes moves things. Directed and channeled, it has great effect. And so that's why if you live by the law of attraction, or if you are studying these principles and you want to learn about them and talk about them in the context of God's wisdom, in the context of my ultimate goal is what I see for myself in the next life. That is the goal that informs all my other goals between here and there. And that's because I believe in God. I believe there is an afterlife, and not everybody does. And that's their choice. And so if you do though, and you have stories that you want to share and you want to add the hashtag rare faith, that's how I'm kind of grouping together all of these really great stories that people have. So here's the thing. They felt like I needed to write a sequel because the Jackrabbit Factor was all about how to create, and people have seen tremendous results in their lives just by reading that book and having that higher awareness. But the sequel needed to show how it kind of plays out in real life. The Jackrabbit Factor takes place in one day. It's a man's dream. And in a dream, it's easy to bring in concepts and things and get all weird and convey ideas. But I wanted to show, all right, so say you understand these principles, what does it mean when you set a goal and everything goes backwards instead of forwards? What does it mean when things go upside down instead of up? And what it is, because if you haven't read the sequel, Portal to Genius, but you have read the Jackrabbit Factor, at the end of the Jackrabbit Factor, and this isn't a spoiler or anything, but at the end of the Jackrabbit Factor, Richard and Felicity get it. It's like that moment we were at that event and we get it. And they are like, oh, honey, we're going to be wealthy. And she's like, you know what? That's going to take a miracle. And he says, yeah, but I believe in miracles. And then something changes. And I'm not going to share what that is, but it does get answered in the sequel. And so they're excited. And Richard goes to work the next day ready to find his next mentor, because he knows how this works. He's going to have this intention, this desire, and someone's going to show up to teach him the next piece. He just knows this is how it works. So he shows up at work, and instead of finding a mentor, he gets a reduction in pay. Okay, so what is that? Anyway, the book Portal to Genius shows you how that is actually part of the formula, and what he learned to do with it is what unlocked the things that he was looking for on the other side. So I'm kind of fast forwarding a little bit. Halfway through writing the book Portal to Genius, I went away to my mom's house to just try to knock it out in a couple weeks, because I just really wasn't interested in drawing it out for 2 years like the Jackrabbit Factor had been.
It was hard on the family too. I'm like, go to your mom's. Just don't come back till it's done.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
So I go to my mom's, and like it's Thursday before I'm coming home on the weekend. I'd been there 2 weeks almost. Was I there that long, or was it 1 week?
Yeah. No, it was, yeah.
It was 2 long weeks.
Yeah.
We had 7 kids at home at the time, and I'm at my mom's. And Thursday, I've got a few more days, and I am stuck halfway through. I'm like, I have no idea how this story is going to end. Jackrabbit, I knew how it was going to end before I began it. You know, Stephen R. Covey says, begin with the end in mind. Well, I did that with Jackrabbit Factor. With Portal to Genius, all I knew is that I needed to write more, but I had no idea how this was going to end. And so I'm just kind of following it as it goes, which was really kind of a fun exercise. Just following what the characters are doing, and oh gosh, and this challenge shows up. Whoa, I didn't see that coming, and I'm writing it, and I'm just enjoying this journey myself. And then I hit this wall, and I'm like, there's nothing. I have no idea where to go from here. And then this little voice, that same little voice that told me to keep teaching, that same little voice said, you can't finish the story yet because you haven't lived it. I'm like, oh boy, honey. And
yeah,
I call
she calls
her.
me up. Yeah.
What did I say?
I'm like, yeah, you told me what you had heard, and I'm like, oh, here we go.
Brace yourself.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we're already in this mess. You know, the mess started in 2007-ish, and I'm writing this book in 2009.
Finished in 2009. Yeah.
So I started at the beginning of 2009, and I realized I can't finish it because we haven't lived whatever this is supposed to turn into. And so I'm like, I got to put the book away. So I put it away, and we just left it alone. And meanwhile, we're scrambling, trying to keep things together. We're robbing Peter to pay Paul. We're just trying to keep things afloat, because we believe that if we just thought right in this mess, bigger mess than we'd ever been in our life, that we could turn it into something good, because of Napoleon Hill's promise that every adversity contains within it the seed of equal or greater benefit. And so we're like, somehow this mess is really good. And we thought that meant that we could turn a bad investment into a good investment. And that's not what it was. It was, what were we going to gain? What were we going to learn? What were we going to be able to teach through that pain? And I've got a whole lot to tell you about those most painful years. And I was thinking, how are we going to fit this? Oh, wow. How are we going to fit this into this short Facebook Live, which isn't super short, but we're trying to keep it under an hour. Because I've tried to share the story before, but it took like an hour and a half, and I didn't even get to everything.
I was saying, thanks, Ryan.
Oh. But the reason I'm at peace today is because I have the details of that story in a podcast that's going to probably be released in the next week. And so watch for it. If you're not already on my newsletter, make sure you go get on my newsletter. Go subscribe at rarefaith.org. There's a little link at the top that says subscribe, and sign up for the newsletter so you can be notified when that podcast is done, and you'll get more of the details. But about 6 months after I was at my mom's and hit that block, we went to, it was our anniversary week, anniversary month, anniversary week, and we were out of everything. We were out of money. Our savings was gone. Our checking account was empty. We had about $200 left. Our credit was maxed. We had already robbed Peter to pay Paul as much as you possibly could, because it was in our head, it was always temporary. Well, once we figure this out, we'll just be able to get rid of all that, and pay it all off. And so it was just, and we were negotiating with our creditors, and we were on the phone with them.
Selling our toys.
Selling our stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, everything. It was hard.
Fun times.
It was hard. And trying to keep our head on straight to respond to people who are reading my books, right? It was hard. I'll tell you though, my best blog articles came out of that period of time, because I would sit down and I would say, if I knew what I was doing, how would I coach myself? And I would write to myself how to get through this moment. And then I'd be like, oh, that was good. And I feel better, and I'd publish it, and so I'd always say, there was a time once when I was feeling so blah, blah, blah. And I didn't say today.
Or last week or whatever.
I'm trying to make it look like I've somewhat figured this out, at least from last week. But no, a lot of it was right there in the moment. But some of my best articles were out of that. And it's our anniversary, and I'm like, honey, we haven't let ourselves go out to eat for a year. And all this while we're managing this, what are you going to do when you run out of money? What are you going to do if you run out of money? What are you going to do then? What are you going to do then? And we would like shove it away. We can't think about that. We can't think about that, until a dear friend and mentor, Dr. Paul Jenkins, we called him up. We're like, we need marriage counseling. He's a marriage counselor. And because our relationship was strained, and so he got on the phone with us to coach us a little bit. And we told him, like, I don't know what we're going to do when we run out of money, because it's getting there. And he's like, let me tell you a story. He said, there was a couple that came into my office and their electric bill was about to be shut off, or their heat or something, in cold weather. And they were at each other's throats, and they were blaming, and they were upset, and they were stressed, and they were worried and everything. He says, hang on. He says, your subconscious mind is designed to keep you alive. It's designed to keep you safe. It keeps your heart beating all day long. It keeps you breathing in your sleep. It handles the things that you might forget to do if you don't put it on your list, right? It's the things to keep you alive. He said, if it perceives danger, if it perceives that you are going to not be well as things are about to play out, it's going to throw up this question, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do if the electric bill or if the electricity gets shut off? What are you going to do if you run out of money? And while we're like, oh, don't even address that. Don't even give that any attention. He's like, it just needs an answer. For crying out loud, answer the question. I mean, answer it unemotionally. You're not creating it by answering it. Just answer it unemotionally. What are you going to do if that happens? And then it'll leave you alone and you can get back to creating. And that was a huge epiphany for us.
Because we just felt like it was so wrong to like give that any attention at all.
Because we'd spent 10 years teaching that you don't give it any attention. So yeah. Anyway, after that, and we learned that helped us calm down a little bit. It's our anniversary. Sorry, I'm coming back to it. I'm like, honey, we haven't allowed ourselves to go out to eat for a year. Could we just go out to eat and pretend like everything's okay for 2 hours? Could we just pretend like we have all that we need for a couple hours? And he's like,
suddenly a thought came to my mind, and it was a recollection of something that John Sims, former business leader, had said. And he said, tow truck driver, he said, if you're up to your neck in crap, it doesn't hurt to pee your pants.
So his answer to, can we just go out to eat? And
that was a quote, by the way.
Yeah, quote. So his answer was, what the heck? Let's just do this. And so we went to Macaroni Grill in Gilbert, Arizona. And our promise to ourselves was that we were just going to not think about the mess we're in, that we've got $200 in the bank, no paycheck in sight, because he had already quit his job several years earlier to do the entrepreneurial thing with me. And
back in 2005. So
in 2005, so we'd been solo for 4 years already. No paycheck in sight, and our next round of bills, mortgage payments on all those properties, was coming due in about 2 weeks to the tune of like $15,000. And it was just too much. We couldn't think about how we were going to solve that, and so we're out to dinner. And I'm like, you know what? And I don't remember who said it, if it was you or me, that said, I have no idea how we're going to get through this week. I have no idea how we're going to get through this month. But do you think we'll have it figured out in 10 years? And we're like, well, of course we will.
I think you asked me that question, and I'm like, yeah, 10 years.
Okay,
yeah, I can see that.
That, we can believe in that. And so I'm like, all right, then let's talk about what we'll be doing in 10 years. Let's talk about how old the kids will be, what they'll be up to, where we'll be. Are we going to be, because we sold our home. We had to short sell our home in that mess. And that was our dream home. And now we're renting. And
not now, but we were.
Yeah, we were renting. And we kept having to move because, we need to downsize and try to spend as little as possible. And then we're in pain in this house with too many kids. And we're like, oh, okay, next house, let's go a little bigger. And we're just trying different things, looking for how cheaply we can live to try to get back on our feet again. And so we're at dinner, we're dreaming about this, and we start to feel differently. And we're starting to get excited. We're like, you know what? Are we going to still be teaching this stuff? Oh, yeah, it's what we do. It's our passion. Okay, then we're building this dream and we feel good. And then it's time to pay the bill. And we go pay the bill and we're headed out to the car, and Trevin's getting ready to open my door, and we hear something. We turn around and it's the waiter running after us saying, hey, wait a minute. Because it's your anniversary, the meal's on us. And this was Macaroni Grill. I don't think it's part of their business plan to give away anniversary meals. And
we hadn't told them it was our anniversary. I don't know how
he must have just overheard it. I don't know. But we were...
You can just hold up the...
there'll be a glare. So I came across this just in the last couple of weeks. There's the Macaroni Grill. I hope it's backwards for me. I hope it's not backwards for you.
No, I think it's straight on for them.
Okay, so there's what we spent. $19. I got a $2.99 cup of tomato basil.
She had a lot of faith. She was really living
and he got a de-grilled salmon.
See, who had the faith there?
I didn't have it. I
let
guess.
Go.
So that's actually the bill that we paid.
Yeah.
And then I found this receipt. This is the bill that was paid that they voided.
But they ran out to the car and they gave us this receipt.
So we had already paid it. And they comped it and ran after us to let us know. Now, the reason we're having this Facebook Live today, and I know some of you have already heard all that story, but the reason we're having this today is because today marks the 10-year anniversary of that moment, where we get to look back and see, of all the things we talked about we would be doing, how much of that came true. And it's miraculous to me to look back on the things that took place. Now,
it's better than I had imagined.
It's better than we had imagined. And not only that, but the process from there to here wasn't super smooth, but we had fixed in our mind how things would be come 2019, June 2019. And we thought, whatever the detours that we have to go through, whatever obstacles we may face, that's what we're fixed on, things being a certain way. By thank you, Olivia, happy anniversary. And just a couple of things, and by the way, that podcast is going to break down the things that happened between then and now for it to play out. And I actually, after that restaurant moment, I remember saying, okay, now I can finish the story. Now I can finish the book Portal to Genius. I know how this can end because we'd lived it. We'd gotten to the end of everything. We had chosen hope, faith, and creation. And as long as we are in that mode, and this is something we learned, that was just the beginning, but for the next 10 years, we have tested and proven over and over and over again that as long as you stay in excitement and anticipation for good things happening, always believe that something wonderful is about to happen, as long as you are in that space of anticipating good things and not allowing fear to be a part of your world, like kicking it out every time it comes, just replacing it. Sometimes that fear is so choking, I would have to say, I choose to believe, and I don't believe it, but I want to hear myself say it enough to where I can start to believe it, and that's what I had to do. But I was going somewhere and I lost my train of thought.
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy
right.
process.
And so that'll be broken down in the podcast. But for example, we had, when I wrote the book, when I finished the book, this is where I was going. I wrote a scene about the restaurant moment. The characters, I had the characters have the same experience. My hair is bugging me. And some people, I think, maybe read that part of the story and think, oh, that's so cheesy. That's so fabricated. Or that's so contrived. And I'm like, oh, that's like one of the most real parts of the whole book was that restaurant moment. And it taught me this, to go boldly toward your goal. Do what you can do today. Make progress. Fall forward. When you're truly at the end of all you can do, that's where you'll find what you need to keep going. If you don't have what you think you need in this moment, you don't really need it. Do your best with what you have, and you'll find that all you had in the moment was enough. We get so freaked out when we don't have today what we're going to need on Tuesday.
But it's not Tuesday yet.
It's not Tuesday yet. And so we had 10 years to practice being grateful right here, right now for what we have, and being excited about what's coming. Those two things kept what we needed provided for us, step by step by step, and some of the most bizarre places that the money would come from. So many unanticipated places that the money would come from. We had that restaurant moment, and then went home and we still had those bills that we had to figure out. Well, we're brainstorming, and we had learned at the restaurant that we've got to stay in this place of creation and anticipation and excitement and what we're going to do. And during one of those brainstorming sessions, my husband had an idea.
You don't have to go into the details, but just tell them the end result.
So he had an idea that ended up being generating $43,000 that month.
Yeah.
One idea. The solution to every problem is only an idea away. And for those of you who have read The Jackrabbit Factor and Hidden Treasures, my other book, which is also free, hiddentreasuresbook.com, those two books together, we've turned into a program called Mindset Mastery. But Portal to Genius is its own kind of animal, and out of Portal to Genius we do what we call Genius Boot Camps, and it's all about getting those inspired ideas that help you solve those hardest problems. So just to kind of wrap up, I want to encourage you to think about, what are you looking forward to? What are you creating? What do you want to see your life look like 10 years from now? And people might say, well, everything that happened to you in those 10 years might have just happened anyway. Has nothing to do with the restaurant moment. And I'll tell you why I am convinced that it does have everything to do with what we learned at that restaurant. Because so many of the things that had to fall into place required miracles. And miracles happen when you can see the end that you intend on the screen of your mind, when you can see it and when you can feel it as though it's already happened, and feel that gratitude, that amazement, that awe.
I was responding to Vanessa, not you.
He's disagreeing with me.
No, Vanessa, what the Mindset Mastery wasn't the $43,000 idea, but
no, 43,000. We talk about that somewhere else, but we won't do that today. So let's see. One of the things. Okay. Oh, I made a quick list. I want to make sure I touch on. You can. Yeah,
I wanted to share something. It was along the lines of what you were saying, and I went on a cycling trek last year in Europe from Prague, Czechia, Czech Republic, to Salzburg, Austria, and it was a leadership trek, and just learned a lot of just amazing things about myself, about principles and things like that. And one thing that I really learned in a totally different way was that we are to do everything that we can do, right? I knew that, but we're to make our plans. But that one thing I learned on the cycling trek was that we plan our route, but then it almost never goes according to plan. Kind of like life, right? And my tour leader, his name is Lane Knighting, and he's an amazing guy. I'll tell you more about him sometime, but Lane said, the detour is the path. But we get stuck in thinking that the path is the path. The path that we outlined, that has to be the path. No, the detour is the path. And I kind of buckled at that at first. I kind of, I didn't feel good about that. It made me feel really uneasy, because I felt like it opened it up to people to make excuses, saying, oh, and just take the shortcut or the easier way out, right? But that's not what he was getting at. What he was trying to point out was that along the way, we have to listen for the signs and the guides to tell us what the true path is to our goal, because it's almost never the path that we think it is. And so as we set our intention and we set our goal, right, with the best knowledge that we have, then God can guide us. He can't really steer a parked car, right? So we get in motion and we start listening for these signs and guides to come along the way to help us see what is the real path. And so invariably they come. And anyway, it was just a huge epiphany for me. And I could look back at my life and I could see that's exactly how God has worked in my life. And it's made a big difference.
I look back over those 10 years and knowing what we had to learn before we could receive the thing that we were trying to create. Life had to take us through certain experiences so that we could gather the knowledge that we needed. And I look back and I counted about 6 or 7 things that we lacked at the time of the recession that we didn't understand, that we weren't good at, that we had yet to figure out. One piece of it was our relationship, how we were being with each other, and we still work on that, and it's still something that needs work. But we were taken through some experiences that taught us how to let go of expectations on each other, because nobody likes being changed. No, people don't resist change. They just resist being changed. That's something we learned from Bob Proctor, but really didn't start trying to apply until this 10-year span. Another one was our self-confidence. We had to restore our self-confidence. It took us, from 2009, that restaurant time, it took me probably until 2015 before I even dared start dreaming again.
Took me longer than that.
I mean, that was a long time that we were licking our wounds. Long time feeling like I don't dare set goals anymore. What if that goal's not good for me? What if I end up regretting that goal too? So I waited until I felt ready, and so that was a process. You look at the list of things that are components to effective goal achievement. It's seeing the vision of it, seeing it done, seeing the end that you intend. It's feeling it as though it's already happened, and it's working like it all depends on you, but at the same time, not frantically, calmly. It's trusting that there's unseen help, which there is, as your vision is clear and your intention is set and determined, then unseen help gathers to help orchestrate the things that you need, the opportunities, the resources. Everything you need starts to cross your path as you move forward with this mindset. But over those 10 years, I also learned that, maybe those 5 or 6 different components that have to be there, that you have to get all right at the same time for the goal to work, those pieces are to bring you to a place of no fear. Those pieces are to bring you to a place of having confidence. But if you can set the goal, if you can set the end that you intend and feel it, and then just have zero doubt, another word for that is to keep calm. Just keep calm, then things keep flowing. And so we had a lot of practice with, we don't have enough for what we need on Friday. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to choose to keep calm. I'm going to see that it's done. And what that looks like to me is me saying, honey, guess what? It got figured out. I'm imagining that conversation and feeling that and knowing that, okay, I just set the intention. It's causing things to happen on my behalf. And now I'm going to choose to keep calm. And it began to be dependable again. And so we would practice with little things. And the one big thing was looking forward to having our own home again and wanting to settle down and put roots down. Because I could not tell you how much brain space was being occupied by wondering where we're going to move next, or where we're going to land, or what's the market going to look like by the time we're ready to buy again. That was a concern. And we had to keep saying, well, it doesn't matter, because what is property unto God, right? It doesn't matter how much it is. We just need to see it, the end, see it done, and do what we can, do our best. And in the story, Richard and Felicity also dream about being in their own home in a place called Andover. And they had imagined all that they wanted it to have. And I remember Trevin and I really starting to get focused on the details of what we wanted our next home to have right around 2015, 2016. But I thought, okay, maybe 2022. I can see us being in our home by 2022. And so we would build the dream. And I spent a lot of time just daydreaming about it and imagining it and not knowing how it was going to work, not knowing how it was going to happen, not knowing how we were going to afford it with the prices going up so much, and without feeling like we were putting ourselves in a bad way, because now our risk tolerance was much different. And we wanted it to be a conservative purchase. And long story short, all I knew, and I had kind of let go of a lot of the details. I'm like, honestly, these things would be nice, but this is the only piece that matters. These things would be nice, but this is the part that matters. What matters is I want to feel this certain way about our home. It doesn't matter what it looks like, nothing. The features, as long as I feel this certain way, I had the feeling really down. I wanted to feel like that was a gift. This was special. This was made ready for us. This was where we're meant to be. I wanted to have those feelings about that place. And it happened in August last year. We thought it would take until 2022, but it happened in August. And I don't know that it's, I'd already let go of it needing to happen by 2019, because that was something that had been set 10 years ago. And I was at peace with whatever, but I was doing my part, and I was projecting ahead to 2022 because that's where my belief level was. And so when we found this home, and in the story, Richard and Felicity find their home and they buy it sight unseen. And we ended up buying this one sight unseen. That's a story that I'll share in the podcast. And we feel about this home the way we wanted to feel about a home. And
we did see the outside.
We saw the outside, and we saw pictures of the inside.
Like maybe 10 pictures of the inside is all.
Yeah.
So,
but the thing that's just so amazing to me is that we wanted to feel like it was special, that it was prepared for us, and not knowing all the details, we bought the home and then we started exploring it just like Richard and Felicity did in the book. And if you remember what they found in the basement, I won't tell you if you haven't read it, but they were shocked and amazed and surprised at the tender mercies that had been orchestrated for them to show them that God is merciful. And yes, I do give credit to God for what he's done in our lives and the wisdom that has accompanied the principles. And we have a lot to learn still. I'm sure we'll be learning till the day we die. But as we moved into the home and we started exploring, we're like, wait a minute, it's got a main floor it's got a full bath on the main floor. That was on my wish list, but I didn't think it had one. Wait, it's got an extra room? We didn't know I had an extra room, a bonus room. It's got the flat tile roof I wanted. It's by the builder that he's wanted for 20 years. And we didn't know that was the builder. It's got the curb that we wanted. It's got all these things that we didn't. A lot
of extras.
That just made us fall to our knees in gratitude. So my invitation to you tonight is just to think about what you are designing. What design do you want for your life? And if you can't believe things will change in the next 2 years, project out. How far out do you have to go to believe that anything really is possible? We couldn't see closer than 10 years when we were in that mess. But the more you see this work, and the more you see that having faith and counseling with God on the goals you choose, and trusting that help is there. Just be excited about what you can create. And the more you do this, the shorter that time span can get, because we've had a little more practice now, and now it's easier for me to imagine something that'll happen in 6 months and watch it play out. You know, I don't have to project out 10 years to believe in something. That span gets a little closer. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has been interesting, and I hope it inspires you to go write some things down. I'll tell you, when I finally got the guts in 2017 is when I finally got the guts to put some detail around our vision, my vision. I started writing it out. This is the beginning. This is more of it. I'm so happy and grateful now that my family is all together again. This is our best Christmas we've ever had. We're well and healthy. Trevin's den is inspiring. I just talked about all the things as though they were already happening. The property is perfect for us, and it's in a location where it's clear that we have good work to do. It's just been fun to look back on the things we wrote and see how much of it played out. Now, was it coincidence? You could maybe think that, but I haven't had time to share with you the little miracles that would happen along the way. The fact that we had to learn 6 or 7 really, really deep principles and experiences alone are what we're teaching it to us. But hold on to that vision of where you're going and just trust, and I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah, keep your chin up. Be excited. It's good things are coming.
So again, go make sure you're subscribed at rarefaith.org so that you can hear the podcast, the details of that mess of 10 years and how it unfolded itself. And I'll tell you, it wasn't all pretty. Part of that was Trevin getting another job and then losing it. But because of what we'd been learning about fear and everything, when he lost his job, his announcement when he came home that day was, "I have some great news." And I'm like, "Why are you home at 10 a.m.? He says, "I have some great news." He said, "We have a great opportunity." And so you can see how he had already changed from not entertaining fear to we get to create. And a half an hour later, he got a phone call which turned into a job that was better than the one he left. Better. And do you see how that setback was actually what needed to happen for God to deliver the other things that we'd been asking for, but we didn't see any other way to get? He had to deliver a job loss. And instead of worrying about it, we're like, okay, we know what to do. We did this restaurant thing before. Let's do this restaurant thing now. Let's imagine, what are we going to do to create, trusting and knowing that moment by moment, that meal will be paid for. Whatever is needed in the moment will be there. And so with that, thank you. Make sure you're on the newsletter. If you haven't liked our page, Rare Faith is the name of the page on Facebook. Make sure you like that there, because there's things that get posted there that aren't shared at anywhere else. We're on Instagram at Rare Faith. What else? Go download a free ebook. Do
they know how to get the podcast?
I'll be announcing it in the newsletter.
Okay.
There's also a link to all the podcasts at rarefaith.org. You can go find those. But yeah, if you've already read the books and you're ready for that help implementing, then either join us for a Genius Boot Camp, which is based on Portal to Genius, or join us in the Mindset Mastery class. That's an online course, and it's powerful. The stories that are coming out of that. You want to be a part of the Facebook group where those students are sharing their stories. It's just so inspiring, and it helps you believe. So that's all I have to say. Thanks for being with us.
And there's a lot more detail that we didn't share tonight, so make sure that you listen to that podcast that Leslie was referring to, because there's just a lot more there that she unpacks. So
yeah, try to condense 10 years of stuff into 1 hour. Not easy. So we're going to sign off. See you later.
Thanks everybody for your kind thoughts and remarks. Appreciate you.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye guys.